Before Muhammad Ali, Angelo Dundee trained world champions like Willie Pastrano, Italian-American at light heavy. He also worked with Carmen Basilio in the 50s. He done a lot of work in New York, Stillman's Gym. That's where he learned his craft. He was a spit bucket boy for Rocky Marciano, Joe Louis, and Sugar Ray Robinson. But people only know him for working with Muhammad Ali and Ray. But there was an Angelo Dundee before that who worked with Chris Dundee, his brother, on them promotions in Miami, the Fifth Street Gym. Before Roberto Duran, Ray Arcel trained the likes of Barney Ross, Jack Kidd Berg, Sixto Escobar, and handled the great Benny Leonard. In 1953, with the mob running boxing in America, and we have to assume this was mob-related, he was hit over the back of his head with a lead pipe, hospitalized for 19 days. This led to Ray Arcel leaving boxing for near on 20 years, until he discovered Roberto Duran. But when most people say Ray Arcel, they think of Roberto Duran. But he has a vast history in the game. He was in the corner with James J. Braddock when he lost to Joe Louis. He worked with Ezra Charles when he fought Rocky Marciano. I don't know if that was the first or second fight. It could have been both. And in saying that, it was Freddie Brown, who had worked with Ray Arcel for years, who trained Duran day to day. Like, Angelo Dundee didn't do a lot of the day-to-day training with Ali. It was Wali Muhammad and Bundini Brown. Angelo Dundee didn't do a lot of the daily training with Sugar Ray Leonard. That was Dave Jacobs and Janks Morton. They was training Ray from when he was an amateur. With this AJ situation, bouncing from being in Virgil's gym, Ronnie Shields, Reneso, apparently he's at Robert Garcia's or something there. There seems like there's a million experts online and they've got a million different coaches who they think could do the job. Everybody seems to know what's best. But how much of them have actually done any real coaching? People are saying Eddie Reynoso. Well, okay, let's go Eddie Reynoso. Why? Because he's got arguably the pound-for-pound best guy? Well, what about Bo Mack? He's got arguably the best pound-for-pound guy. You know, and like with Eddie Reynoso, some will put it down to his coaching genius and some will put it down to his nutrition choices for his fighters. I'll just say no more. I've heard people say Abe Sanchez. Abe's been quiet recently and people have short memories. I remember people burying Abe not too long ago, saying he was a crap coach. Triple G should have never went to him. And yeah, but now he's in the running apparently for some people. Virgil Hunter. He's had some champions, but his most renowned work is Andre Ward. I mean, he hasn't exactly got a cronk gym up there in Caliazzi, turning out champions. Joe Calzaghe is one of the most successful British boxers ever. What was he, 46-0? He was trained by his dad Enzo. Who's Enzo's other champions outside of Calzaghe? Enzo Macronelli? And who else? You know what they used to tell Enzo? What are your credentials? You can't train Joe in your barn out there in Wales or wherever it was. You've took him this far. Now it's time to hand it over to someone more capable. A statement from Calzaghe's manager, Frank Warren, said that the Welsh fighter's father had taken him as far as he can and someone else should take over. When was this about? 1999, after he appointed Rick Thornberry, the Australian. And Joe looked a little flat. You see, holding belts long term, fighting consistently against your mandatories, you're going to have periods where you look flat. But Joe and Enzo stood their ground and they stayed together until Joe retired. You see, Joe came to London in the early 90s and signed with Mickey Duff. They were training at the Royal Oak Gym where Terry Lawless was the main trainer and Jimmy Tibbs was the main trainer. So he definitely trained with Jimmy Tibbs. They were trying to force Enzo out from then, split them up. But they stood their ground. And when people talk about Enzo, oh, what a great trainer he was with Joe. That's what they say now. But it wasn't always like that. Now, I'm going to repeat this a few times in the video. This is not an advertisement for Rob McCracken to keep his job. His situation with AJ is not the same as Joe and Enzo, yeah? Is Enzo Calzaghe a better trainer than Rob McCracken? I don't know, you tell me. You guys know who should be training who and all the great champions are. You tell me. Some of you know everything. To be honest, like Joe's resume, a lot of the guys he fought were not top draw. They weren't top draw. Especially for that WBO super middleweight belt that he won from Eubank. What would have happened if he went across the pond in the late 90s, early millennium? What would have happened? Well, yeah, you'd have to fess up that Joe's skills and Enzo's coaching methods would have been tested more severely. But it is what it is. You can't just keep revisiting history and trying to make it what you want it to be. Anthony Joshua is capable of riding out the rough patch and getting the career-defining wins. That will put him in there with an esteemed class of heavyweights. He is capable of doing it. I mean, is it happy ever after with Ronnie Shields? What heavyweights has he trained? F.A. Ajagba? He stopped working with Ajagba because it was messing up his relationship with Shelley Finkel at the PBC. Let's not even pretend that F.A. went to top rank and deteriorated. He deteriorated when he was with Ronnie, getting floored by cruiserweight Joe Calzaghe, nearly getting knocked out. I mean, if that was Rob McCracken and F.A. was performing like that, you guys would have crucified Rob. So who's Ronnie got? Landy, Lara, Jamal Charlo. I'm doing that off the top of the head. Well, Lara had the amateur pedigree, but a lot of people just don't like how he fights. In saying that, if he can just get W's and have AJ not winning in a pleasing style, maybe AJ will settle for that. I'm not highly impressed with Jamal Charlo. He's had a decent career, but it makes you wonder why Ronnie isn't pushing him harder to fight the likes of Andrade, Triple G, or Canelo. Avoided Danny Jacobs. Was going to fight David Benavidez, then said I'd rather fight Andrade. But that was all smoke. If Ronnie is an elite coach, he should have Charlo by now fighting elite opposition. Now, I'm not saying he isn't an excellent coach yet. I'm just saying he doesn't have the ATG resumes that the great coaches have. Now, I'm just bringing up some points. That's all I'm doing here. Because it may work, but what's the truth? Like, you can try it, go to a name brand guy. You can try it, go to someone who's got maybe 2 top 4 or 5 pound for pound fighters in his stable. But bottom line is, it's chemistry. It's chemistry. You could be a young trainer, unproven, who's got certain philosophies and principles, and all the fighters you've came across, none of them can adopt your teachings and adapt to your teachings. Then one guy or girl starts manifesting your teachings even better than even you could ever imagine. And these are your theories and principles. But there they are, taking it to another level. AJ is 9 years into his pro career. That's quite a time. Fury and Wilder were 13 years into their pro career. AJ got to championship level at least 3 to 4 years quicker than they did. He can ride this storm out, but it's going to be difficult. And regardless of who trains him, I think a little period in America will be good for him. I really do believe it will be beneficial to him. You know, everybody's like, switch trainer. And then when you look at who they think should train him, Buddy McGirt. Oh, no, not Buddy. Shane McGuigan. Ben Davison. What about Teddy Atlas? Salas. Derek James. Joe Gallagher. Peter Fury. Yeah, he's doing a great job with Huey, isn't he? I mean, Huey's still growing. Every day Huey's still growing into his man strength. But Peter Fury does have Savannah Marshall. She's a world champion. She gets a lot of stoppages. She hasn't failed to impress. And she even has a similar style to what Peter is trying to teach Huey. But maybe she's adapting better. Maybe the gene pool of fighters she's fighting as a woman boxer is not as strong as what Huey is facing. Who knows? Basically, a trainer's success with a fighter is just the chemistry he has with the fighter. Like, something just has to click between you for it to work. Sometimes you go with a new trainer and just the new environment, the newfound focus, this can all make the difference. Just the other year, a lot of you had Ben Davidson up there. You had him up there because he got the draw with Wilder. You had him up there. But I guess because Fury left him and John was slagging him off, he must be crap now. But then again, he's got Josh Taylor, so he must be good now. He's got the undisputed champion. And on social media, the public opinion just swings from win to loss, bad performance to good. There's no, let's look at the whole body of work. Can he come back from this? And if I remember correctly, Billy Joe Saunders had Ben Davison in his corner when he fought Akavov, and he looked terrible. But what's that down to? Ben's incompetence, or the fact that Billy was struggling to make the weight and was inactive for a little while? Is he a good coach? I mean, he got a whole load of praise when Fury drew with Deontay Wilder. But I don't want to say he got exposed, because then I'll be doing what a lot of other people are doing and saying, well, that one thing he did wrong makes him a bad coach. I'm not going to say he was exposed, but Freddie Roach asked what now is a pivotal question in Tyson Fury's career. Why didn't you guys fight inside more? I want to see you fight inside more. Cling! There you go, Freddie. There you go. There you go. But Ben, you could put it down to he doesn't have the experience being a British coach, too afraid for Tyson Fury's well-being, like he was his friend more than his coach, and not really understanding heavyweight boxing at the top level. I mean, look, Freddie's been in the ring with Hector Camacho and flipping Greg Haugen. Took beatings, but he's been in the ring with them. He was tutored by Eddie Futch. Eddie Futch is the man who trained Joe Frazier to beat Ali, trained Montel Griffin to beat Roy Jones, trained Riddick Bowe to put the first L on Holyfield's record. He was tutored by that guy how to be a coach. He's trained Manny Pacquiao, an offensively very talented fighter. But that observation by Freddie Roach has changed Tyson Fury's career trajectory. Totally. But check it out. This is one for the short memory squad. Remember Freddie was ridiculed for saying that he thought Tyson Fury could have knocked out Wilder a couple of times in the first fight? Dave Caldwell jumped on him. I'm really disappointed in Freddie. Adam Booth jumped on, and so did Anthony Fowler. And a lot of you were critiquing Freddie, saying, oh, you're going to get him killed. When it's that advice that has changed Tyson Fury's whole career. People are saying he's an all-time great now. And it's that same advice that has literally destroyed Deontay Wilder's career. But then again, you know, Freddie has been accused of not building any fighters from scratch. He's been accused of having his fighters not being defensively responsible. Remember that time when Amir Khan was in the wild card, trading and getting banged around by the Eastern European guy? I can't remember his name. And then shortly after that, his next fight was with Danny Garcia, and he got banged out in, 4 or 5? And that was the end of the Freddie Roach relationship. See, that's the thing, yeah? The coach always gets it. In football, all sports, the coach always gets it. But if Amir Khan had a sturdier chin, does he get rid of Freddie Roach? What if Carl Froch had got knocked out by Jermaine Taylor when he got floored? And it was a heavy knockdown, and Froch was hurt. But he took the punch, came for it, and stopped Taylor with seconds left on the clock in the 12th. I mean, Rob McCracken could have been finished there. Who knows? But Froch got through it. Now, before I carry on, I'm not making the case for Rob McCracken to stay. I'm not. I'm just pointing out that it's not black and white like a lot of people are making it. That's what I'm just showing here. Sometimes you just get outmaneuvered by the opposite coach. And Papa Lomachenko outmaneuvered Rob. And his charge in the ring, Usyk outmaneuvered AJ. It is what it is. If AJ didn't recover from that Vlad right hand, we know who would have been getting it. Rob would have been getting it. Eddie Hearn would have been getting it. Oh, why'd you push him in there so early with Klitschko? Look at the last phase of Klitschko's career without Manny Stewart. Now they got the great knockout against Pulev. Great finish. Arguably Vlad's best performance. But then he looked flat against Bryant Jennings. Got outpointed by Tyson Fury and looked flat in that one. But gave a very spirited battle, a classic if you like, against Anthony Joshua and got knocked out. People are saying, Rob didn't give AJ his whole attention. He was training the Olympic team. Well, Andy Lee is supposed to be an integral part of Team Fury. He couldn't get over to America because of the COVID restrictions and flight restrictions because of that. But Fury still won the fight with Sugar Hill. You know, like Sugar Hill and Jonathan Banks are two coaches from that Emmanuel Stewart era, Kronk style if you like. But I bet they've got two different interpretations of how they teach that. Of course they do. Why didn't Vlad reach out to Sugar Hill after Manny died? Why did he reach out to Jonathan Banks? Who's the better trainer out of the two? You probably have to say Sugar Hill for his work with Adonis Stevenson and his work with Tyson Fury. So how did we weigh up Jonathan Banks? Did he destroy everything that Emmanuel taught Vlad? Or was Vlad just coming to the end of the road? I tell you what, on the internet, you really are as good as your last performance. They're not going to look at the whole body of work that you did. It's all going to be on what's trending and how you fucked up in the last fight. And that's just what people are like. Here's the thing. Rob McCracken used to train Tyson Fury. You know when Tyson Fury went to Rob McCracken at his lowest point when he scraped past John McDermott? The English champion has teamed up with Rob McCracken in a bid to turn his raw potential into world titles. Fury came in for major criticism despite winning his first professional belt with a points victory over John McDermott for the English title last month. Here's what Fury says about Rob. He's as good as any trainer in the world. He's as good as any trainer in the world. We're working on my defense and balance. I'm going to give it everything to become a world champion. I train hard already, but I'm going to train even harder. Fury's move is the second time he has split from his original trainer, Steve Egan, this year. Fury went with Rob McCracken based on what? Based on him turning Carl Froch into a world champion. He wasn't trying to find out if they were compatible, if the chemistry was right. No. He wanted what he did with Carl Froch to rub off on him. How many world champions did Britain have when Carl Froch beat Jean Pascal? Not many. Not many. I don't know the number, but it's not many. Fury's promoter, Mick Hennessy. The move was made to bring the best out of a fighter already considered to be a world champion in waiting. See? These are reactive decisions based on Fury's last result against John McDermott. Mick Hennessy was Fury's promoter. He also used to promote Carl Froch. Fury said he's already been training alongside Froch and says the experience of working up close with a world champion has been a major influence. When you've got a world champion in training, it inspires you. He said he takes no prisoners, writes his foods down, eats no rubbish, goes to bed early. I train hard in the gym, but I've not always lived the life of a pro boxer. I don't drink, smoke or go clubbing, but I've not always been switched on, and you've got to be focused. I want to get to the end knowing I've done everything I can. And look what they're asking underneath. Do you think Fury will become a world champion? Have your say. That was a very transitional phase of Tyson Fury's career. What's the truth though? Rob McCracken trained Carl Froch, maybe from when he turned pro. I don't have the dates. And he built a reputation as one of the best British boxing coaches with Carl Froch. He was flying the flag for British boxing coaches. And now all of a sudden, look at all the shit he's getting. Must be a depressing period for him. It must be really a depressing period. But with AJ possibly moving to America, a lot of people are going to be saying them Brits can't coach at the highest level. So all the British fighters are going to get to a certain level and think, oh, I need to do what AJ did. I need to go with Sugar Hill. I need to go with Ronnie Shields. Remember Oliver Harrison, the British coach who used to train Amir Khan? Before Amir got to the world title shots, people started having a word in Amir's ear, mainly his brother and his old man, saying, they need to get rid of Oliver, get a more name brand coach. So they went to Jorge Rubio. Not name brand, but he trained the Cuban nationals as an amateur. But as soon as people hear Cuban, they get carried away sometimes. That's how the Wilder fans were trying to prop up Luis Ortiz. Because he's Cuban, master has to follow. No, that's a load of bollocks. Well, Khan's Cuban coach got him knocked out in what was it, less than a minute? In his first fight after he split with Oliver Harrison. And Rubio's gig was over in a minute. He was out. You know, most of the YouTube channels are just clickbaiters. That's what they are. Anthony Joshua gets Mike Tyson's ex-trainer to help. He trained him for the Lennox Lewis fight, yeah? What other fights? He was about as much Mike Tyson's trainer as Rob McCracken was Tyson Fury's trainer. McCracken trained Tyson Fury for one fight against Thomas Mrazek. That was a points win in Ireland. 6 months after that, in Huddersfield, a 1-round KO over Hans Blasco. He had Brian Hughes in his corner. Brian Hughes has passed away now. He's a Manchester trainer. He used to train Matthew Hall, Pat Barrett. So Tyson Fury was coach hopping. He probably said Brian Hughes is the best when he was in his corner. And then he had the McDermott rematch, and I think his dad was in the corner for that fight. See, at the time, Tyson was low on confidence, hopping from trainer to trainer. Eventually he settled with Peter Fury, won the world title against Klitschko, then unraveled. Now he's got the WBC belt. Tyson was hoping one of them coaches that he was hopping in between was going to bring some magic dust and sprinkle it, transform him into Joe Louis and Larry Holmes rolled into one. But it doesn't work like that. It's hard work. It's hard work. Yeah? And I believe with him working with Rob McCracken, it was probably more him getting the chance of training with Carl Froch. Same with Andy Ruiz. Eddie Reynoso. Nah, you want to train alongside Canelo because you think it's going to rub off on you. And that's fair enough. I think boxers are a very superstitious bunch. And I've said this many a time. I believe boxers learn more from training with other boxers than the instructions that their coaches are giving them. That's what I believe. I reckon if I was interviewing Manny Stewart, RIP, and I was to ask him, does having a Tommy Hearns in the gym have a positive influence on the youngsters who walk in the gym wanting to be champions? What do you reckon you'd say?